enjoy that world tree burning down.
Ooh, wow, dang.
Wow.
I'm glad we gave you a shirt.
Yeah, I'm glad we gave you a shirt. All right, everybody ready? Welcome to DerbyCon. If you're looking for the talk about the roach, you're in the wrong room. It's 2 doors down.
Whatever kind of roach that is.
Who the heck are we? Well, we're the 304 Geeks. We're from Charleston, greater Charleston, West Virginia. Some of us are not, but we're from West Virginia, and we put on a little conference every year in West by God, Virginia called Secure WV and HackerCon. Anytime you see the HackerCon logo on the screen, you yell, "Yay, HackerCon," and you get a free t-shirt. All right, so here we are. This is Benny Karnes, and the tall one is John. That's Rick. That's me and my maximum beard day. There's Professor Bill, Justin, and Michael, and of course Steve. So we're going to start off with when you're going to do a conference. What's the first thing to do? Well, you got to build your organization. So the first thing about building your organization, believe it or not, is you got to have an address. Now, you actually have to put some thought into this as to whether you want to use somebody's home address or do you want to use a P.O. box. The problem with using somebody's home address is, well, they may not be in your organization for forever, and then you've got a bunch of stuff to change. So the safest, best thing to do is to get a P.O. box. Then you got to decide on officers. At the state level in West Virginia, you have to have 4 officers to start a company: president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. Now, one person can't serve 2 or 3 roles, but you need to think about your group and who's going to be the official officers. And because at the state level and incorporation papers, it's a little bit of a pain to change all that. Your next question is, do you want to incorporate or not? Do you want to be an LLC or do you want to be an Inc.? Now, there are some legal differences between the two. I'm not going to get into all that. We're an Inc. It's better for insurance purposes if you're an Inc. If something happens, God forbid, you do end up getting sued, you want that corporate protection. After you get incorporated, the next thing to do is to get your FEIN number from the feds. It's real easy to do. There's just a form online. Once you get the incorporation papers back from the state, you just submit them and they send it to you. And then there are some yearly state filings that you have to keep up with. And in West Virginia, it's about $150. Now, interestingly enough, you hear from a bunch of people when you incorporate, and they all want to know things. The tax office wants to know. Go ahead. Yes, Lee. Federal Employee Identification Number. Employer, yeah. It's like your Social Security number, except for a company. So you'll hear, after you incorporate, you'll hear from a bunch of state agencies, at least in West Virginia you do. You hear from the tax office, they want to know, they have a little form that they send you that you got to fill out. You hear from the Secretary of State's office. The odd ones that you hear from and are really more important is you hear from the Department of Labor. They want to know if you're going to have any employees. Now, this is very important for a nonprofit. If you're going to try and set up a conference, you do not want to have any employees. Because once you get into that payroll stuff, it really complicates things on the federal level. So you just tell them no. And then in West Virginia, you also hear from the Department of Alcohol to see if you're going to be selling beer. Because they have all these licensing things. And obviously the answer is no to that. So after you get your and West Virginia has a really cool website that you can go to. I'm sure other states have a similar thing. It'll step you through how to start a new business. After you get your FEIN, you can go to the bank and you can open a bank account. So the bank's going to want to know 3 things. They're going to want to know your FEIN number, they're going to want to know your address, and they're going to want to see your incorporation papers. Plan on about $1,000. Now you can get by for less than that, but by the time you're done paying your state stuff and paying the 501c3 filing fee and putting the minimum deposit in your bank account, that's about, and paying for your post office box, that's about where you're at. And then, of course, there are limits on how much you can have. If you have extra, you can always just send it to us. So, on the federal level, the form to file a 501c3 application is this form, the 1023EZ. Now, this has changed. You know, we incorporated 9 years ago and got our 501c3 then, and they have really changed it a lot and made it a lot simpler, thus the EZ part. But, you know, it's still a government form, and the basis of it is these questions. Now, there are 30 of them, and you need to be able to answer no to all 30 if you want to fly through the process. And this first question is the most important of the bunch. The federal level between being a big, complicated 501c3 and being a simple one is $50,000. So if you're going to stay less than that, you really won't have any trouble, and you'll be able to breeze through all this filing and stuff pretty easy. If you get over that, then things get a lot more complicated. The questions also revolve around a few more things, like are you going to be doing any gambling? They're very interested in that. That's why we don't ever have a raffle or anything like that at our conferences, because they get testy about the gambling thing. Then the most important thing that they ask you about, though, is are you going to be involved in any political functions at all? Are you going to be involved in politics in any way? And the best answer for that, of course, is always no. So to file your 501c3, you're going to have an organizing document, and it can be simple, but it's got to be, you know, who your officers are, what your bylaws are, who's on your board, what your purpose is. We're an educational 501c3 because we put on information security conferences and training. Now, there's a level beyond that if you can qualify as a certain amount of time during the year you spend doing secondary education, as in junior high, high school, then there's some other equipment and funding resources by the federal government that you can tap into. We haven't done that yet, but that's definitely one of our goals. And then one of the other things the feds are real insistent on is when you're all done and you got some money left over and you decide to dissolve your charity, where's the money go? They're real picky about that, and you've got to have a plan at the beginning for when you dissolve what you're going to do with any money that you have left. The best thing is, of course, not to have any money when you dissolve, but if you have some, they want to know what you're going to do with it. If you think about the common sense of all that, if there is a common sense with anything with the federal government, it's they don't want people just popping up these 501c3s, raising a lot of money, and then dissolving them and keeping the money. So that's kind of the backside purpose of all that. So every year you have a yearly IRS filing, and if you're below the 50,000 mark, it's real simple. It's called a 990N, and it's just an N postcard that you just fill out online, and you just send it in and submit it, and there's nothing to it. So that's the end of my part. Anybody have any questions about organizations or anything real quick? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. Now, you can, but it adds to a whole nother level of reporting on both the federal and the state level. We don't do that at all. We're all volunteers, and we all do all that we do for free, except Benny pays us occasionally.
Wait, what? No.
Wait, what?
You were supposed to tell them that. No, and everything that we have every year, I mean, we barely make enough to get with sponsorships and all to actually do the conference. So I'm Benny Karnes. I was the goofy guy doing the sports ball reference there. So you need to decide on your target audience. One of the things that you want to do is you want to look at red and blue teams or IT groups in your local area. We've looked at a few, and we've actually helped start and support some of the local groups like Lugs in our our local area. And then you can go to, since Charleston is kind of a small place, we've actually gone to Northern Virginia, some parts of Ohio. We actually have, HackerCon is more of a regional thing, but we try to reach out as much as possible to the different places. You need to make sure that you get a pulse for the target audience, and that may change, as you go, as it changes throughout, but start some social media, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Set up meetings. We've tried doing monthly 3 or 4 Geeks meetings. That's been kind of successful. We actually, Matt was talking about, we actually have a thing with Bridge Valley, one of our community colleges back home, that we have a class every Tuesday that we go over just InfoSec related and IT related things, and the public's available to come to it. And revise the target audiences as needed. You'll need to make sure that when you give the con, walk around and start talking to people to make sure that you've hit the right speaker talks, the right topics, and make sure that you keep a list for the next year, and you keep updating and changing that target audience and what they are looking for in a conference. Code of conduct. We like to make sure that we have a fun weekend. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal, and it can get pretty crazy, but you need to make sure that you have a code of conduct so that if something does happen, you have a response for it. We actually have a code of conduct, as you can see, that securewv.org is our website, and then we have our code of conduct up there. We're out of shirts. Sorry, we didn't have a. One thing that I don't think we did put in here, when you are looking to do shirts and things, make sure you plan for what do you do next year. So if you do something like this, make sure you have enough. They do get pricey, but it is nice to have a few extras to hand out to different things. Make sure that you have a memorable theme. Some things that we've had in the past, we've done prepper type things. That kind of was what we had for a while, but because last year was HackerCon 8, someone mentioned on one of the board meetings of doing the Ocho from Dodgeball. So Mike did the graphic that you see there, which is on our shirts. And ever since we discussed that early on in the year, that was it. So everything was Dodgeball themed after that. It also helps with the overall layout and planning. Some of the things that you may want to do is if you have something that will tie into it, you want to make sure that that gets up and around, through posters or whatever throughout the con. Don't be afraid to borrow things from other cons. As you can see, we've been doing the ham radio testing for the last, last year, and we're doing it again this year. And so other cons have decided to, jump the bandwagon and join in. So when you find a venue, make sure that it's within your budget. One of the venues that we looked at early on, they did a remodel, and they went from a $5,000 budget, which is within our price range, to a $20,000 budget for the same exact time and rooms and everything. And we were like, nope. So your needs may, it depends on the venue and also the size. So make sure that you have enough room to legally have everybody, because you don't want a place that, maxes out at 100 people and you have 250 people show up. You need to make sure that there's plenty of restrooms, make sure that you get insurance. The projectors and sound systems, sometimes different venues will actually charge extra, and they can be as pricey as $100 an hour just for a projector to $250 an hour. The place that we're at now, that's actually part of the rental fee. So, and make sure that there's a bar either close, because some people do like to drink, I've heard. Ours actually has it in there. So yeah. Pardon? Yes, we do have a parrot. So I don't. Is it in here? Okay, it's in here. You'll see the parrot. The parrot gets really crazy, and the parrot was taught to talk by a bunch of construction workers. So if you do come to HackerCon, don't be offended by the parrot. We have no control on what she'll say. Yeah, if you have a dog, she'll go here, kitty, kitty, all that stuff. So hotels are good for multi-day conferences because people can go and crash out in their rooms if they get a little tipsy. If ours has a restaurant and the hotel and conference center all in one place. So as I said earlier, make sure that you check for extra costs like visual equipment and if they charge for cleaning up. Actually, that's a repeat. Why is that a repeat, Matt? Okay, so the first one.
You define two venues.
Yes.
The first one was cheap. The
Shut
second
up.
one, which is expensive.
So the first one was our first HackerCon. We are way in the back. We are in with another conference, and you can barely see us in the background. This was last year at our keynote speaker. So the first year, I think we had a total of 60 people, and last year we had a total of 175 people. So, Bill, you're up.
Oh, okay. Hang on a second. I gotta get up.
This might take a while. Yeah.
Danny, go.
You guys were taking bets and I was going to fall, weren't you?
First of all, I don't know who you are. Did you sign in on the attendance? Oh, shit, I'm not at class. Also, there is no drinking in this room. It's illegal, apparently, according to the guy that stopped me from drinking the other day. So make friends with Adrian. Adrian drives from place to place on his own time and money in order to record cons. You need to get with him almost 6 months at least, if not a year before your conference in order to have him there. But the exposure is, you can't put a price tag on those videos. And, you know, you can go back and look years retrospectively of videos he's done in the past. And he's a really good guy. That's HackerCon 1 on the right-hand side. The other thing we said was that Dave and Martin and Adrian came to HackerCon 1 was like, if these idiots can put on a conference, we can do one better. So we're almost exactly a year older than DerbyCon. You know, Adrian does this out of his own time, so he just needs a place to crash. And I usually throw him some gas money, which I think that's probably the best thing to do. But if you want to go out there and look, there's all the different links to past HackerCon. That's his website, irongeek.com. Everyone knows irongeek.com, right? Adrian's one of the reasons that I got into this industry in the first place because I watched his videos and I was like, this looks like fun. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should go to a conference. So we didn't really have a conference close enough to go to in West Virginia. So we're like, we'll start our own. So that's how I got into the conference game. So find sponsors. The biggest issue with sponsors is that you're not going to be able to fund your conference through ticket sales alone. You might be able to, but you're going to have to charge a lot of money. And a lot of organizations are looking for sponsorship opportunities. The biggest issue is you have to get with them pretty early because a lot of companies set their sponsorship budgets really early in the year, maybe a year in advance, 6 months in advance. Here's some of our previous sponsors, including Trusted Sec, and that part of that's sending Adrian, of course, down to do the recording, and the other is Greenbrier Communications. They've been always good to us. So cash rules, debt is dumb, never go into debt to do a conference. I know people who did conferences in the past, they ended up folding them. They ended up tens of thousands of dollars worth of debt. And they did everything that took them years to dig out of that debt. The other thing is that remember, your money is not the organization's money. I used to throw a lot of money into HackerCon. I don't so much anymore because we've got good sponsors. So just be careful about that. We also have an Amazon Smile link. If you want to help us out, you can use this Smile link. I'll leave that up there so everyone can take a picture or write it down in your notebooks. I'm not sure which. Huh? I'm going to post the slides on SlideShare, which apparently is shutting down. Is that a problem? Yeah, we'll put. Actually, if you go to irongeek.com. Hi, Adrian. I was just talking about you. It was good stuff, seriously. Okay, good. So, are you going to irongeek.com? You'll see he'll post this video, and I'm going to leave that there for a second. Who's next on this video? Oh, John. Who's Amanda Berlin?
Who's Amanda Berlin? I don't know. So, and as you keep your eye on our community always has some key topic. And you want to have that keynote to address one of those topics and to draw. Last year we had, thanks to our professor, Ira Winkler come and do a talk. It was very interesting, very informative. This year we're going to have Amanda Berlin come. Obviously, I think. But obviously Amanda has her own agenda this year. She's bringing up very important issues within our industry. So we want to talk about that and make her our keynote. You can do that. You can also find other, Dave Kennedy has done our keynote several times to bring up technical issues that he sees in our industry. And your call for papers. This is actually really tough when you get these papers in because you're going to have to decide what's important, what's good, and what do you guys want to see. It's hard to decide sometimes. We obviously all come from different backgrounds on our board. That's not always true, though I guess 3 of us came from law firms. So you have different perspectives. You want different things. So does your audience, and you really need to address that within your talks. I think DerbyCon does a good job. We try to do a good job with the limited number of tracks of giving you a much wider path to choose. Because with multiple tracks, obviously you get different feels for different aspects of our industry. That's our first. It looks so paltry now, actually. And we had what? 4 tracks? 3 tracks this year. 3 tracks this year. That was our first. Within the actual program that I did on this, we did a little crypto challenge, which was entertaining. I haven't been able to repeat that since. That's actually so much work. And putting together all of the things that you need is a lot of work between the printings and the posters and the scheduling. You're going to need friends. You're going to need lots of friends to do these things. And they're all going to be volunteers because you don't want to have to pay people because that complicates your organization. And costs money. Mr. Fry?
How come he gets applause? I got silence. Because he's so pretty.
Hey, I'm Mike. So one of the important things that you're going to need when you're pimping out your con is the website. It's really, really important that you put a lot of information out there, what you're going to be having people talk about, all the different things that are going to be involved at the con. So you need to talk about the location, the villages or the different events that are going to be going on at the con, the sponsors. So after a while in, you'll be able to get a lot of sponsors that are coming up. You'll need to showcase them on your site. You also need to have a spot for them to be able to go to your site and register to be a sponsor. So after the schedule is set down, which John was just talking about, after you've picked all of the different speakers, you'll need to put that up. We don't have that up on our site yet, but that should be coming in just a little bit. We recently just spoke about who is going to be speaking, and ours will be coming in just a little bit. So the policies, I believe Benny mentioned those a little bit earlier, and the hotel. You need to have a link to the hotel so that people can actually go and register for their room. And securewv.org, get your tickets today.
Ooh, thank you, sir. Does he have a laser pointer? I don't have a need for it. I just wanted it. Thank you, baby. Hi, I'm Justin. You don't care. They had asked me to talk about the pimping section, or you might call it advertising. And to kind of go over the background of why it's Secure West Virginia and HackerCon, apparently some people, mostly sponsors, have a problem writing checks to something called HackerCon. So we have Secure West Virginia in the streets, HackerCon in the sheets kind of thing, where it's the same con. What? Yes, thank you. It's the same con per se. Y'all, I'd love that. But you also have to advertise cautiously. And by cautiously, meaning social media posts, telling everybody you know that you're going to this conference. And then there's spamming the living hell out of everybody you know. We decided not to sing that. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, shut up. Yeah. Also, do not let Bill have access to that mailing list, whatever you do, because he will make those people unhappy, and they will reply to all very unhappily. The first conference we were with was CharCon. Yeah.
And I replied to it all, replied to also the CharCon email, and basically they what do you call me? An inconsiderate jackass or something?
We didn't deem that inappropriate either. So develop a good strategy for pimping out your conference, telling everybody, using social media, linking to Iron Geek's site for past conferences, wearing dorky t-shirts at the same time, having people come up to you asking you about your dorky t-shirts at the same time. It's all good psychology. Oh, and well, we've recently gotten some sponsors through Pen Tester Academy, and recently been interviewed by Security Weekly. You may have heard of them. And by we, I mean Benny and Matt, not me. Nobody wants to talk to me. And somebody named Bill has a podcast called Reboot It. And he's been pimping that. So it's all advertising. It's all getting the word out there as much as you can to everybody you can until they tell you to shut up. Also, don't forget about local media. Your local news would be very interested in the fact that there's a HackerCon. For good or for bad, it's still advertising. Local celebrity. Also networking with your groups, going to the lugs. Just because you support them, you actually have to attend and still pimp there. Hey, we're going to do a hardware hacking workshop at HackerCon. And then you actually have to do that. Hey, we're doing a lockpick village when you're demonstrating lockpicking to people and kids, and then you have to have the village. Thank you, Adrian. Again. I'm so glad I wasn't hallucinating.
He's right there.
Thanks. Okay, and next up.
Oh my God, here we go. Thank you. Hey guys, I'm Rick Hayes. So you can tell we're getting into the nuts and bolts of actually putting the con on. So the first time we did this, there was like a constant stream of people back and forth to Lowe's or Staples or wherever else because you need stuff. You know, we're conditioned not to bring huge amounts of crap, but for a conference, you need stuff. We ended up building a great big war chest, hopefully not a mimic, that's got a little bit of everything in it, duct tape, zip ties, pins, crowbars, glow in the dark, preferably powder coated. They're kind of cool. I'll send you guys a link. We found just so many things we needed we didn't expect. The furniture sliders, so little super slider things, you'd be surprised. But if you got to rearrange an entire conference center and there's nobody to help you, 4 little frictionless pads are pretty amazing. I mean, they help a lot, especially if you're stealing couches from other parts of the building, things like that. Not that I would condone that, but it saves your back a little bit. And there's things that sometimes you need that you just can't find. Door wedges are one thing that I mentioned down here. We needed those a lot of times, but it turns out that the conference center has 4 or 5 of them. And they have the little stomp down things on the doors, but they don't work. They've been broken, they've been messed with, they don't do their thing. And if you get to where you're going to need individual first aid kits, PPE, and all that kind of stuff, I don't want to be there. So you can do that yourself. That's on you for the training and utilization. We're not even going to get into that. Batteries, of course, batteries, and people. people for all this stuff. Gophers, you need people that can go and do stuff for you. It can't just be the core 4 or 5 people doing all the work, because you're going to need a break. You know, you can't do everything. And the people that are helping you, give them drink tickets, drink tokens, bring them food, give them just time to stop and get away for a little bit. You know, if you got radios, even better. You know, text groups are fine, but radios are immediate communication. You don't have to find somebody's phone number. You can call, say, hey, I need help right now, or just repeat somebody's name over and over and over and over again until they hate you. You know, Rob, 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 Rob. A little bit of an inside joke. And you're going to need a break eventually. You know, you've just got to take some time to get away, charge your phone, just not be around people for a while. Break off in pairs if you can, because that way you can sit down and talk about what's going on. I know Benny and I have had lunch and stuff a lot of times and thought of some stuff that we need to address when we get back. Having a staff room for just staff, or even if you do the whole green room ops center thing for staff and speakers, it kind of helps. That way everybody can get away from the attendees for a little bit. You know, you want to be out mingling and being with people all that you can, but sometimes you just got to get away. And, you know, get away, take some gophers to run the registration table, disappear for a while. And, you know, if you're using PayPal or whatever else, you're probably going to be all right. You know, if not, whatever. All right, so once it's going, now what do you do with it? Steve?
Which one's the go button there?
That's the go button.
That's the go button. Hi, my name's Steve Truex. I'm the newest addition. I have not even been on the board a year. I've been to a couple HackerCons. They got a nickname for me. They call me the FNG, which stands for Fun New Guy, right? We'll go with that, right? So, as far as we know, that's okay. As far as I know. So, some of the things that enjoy your con, you help people out. If we're doing a CTF, you don't know the expertise of the people that are there. This might be their first CTF they ever touched. This might be something, you know, you want to be able to go around and help people, because that's the best way you get to meet people. You meet people that you would never know that you would meet. You know, I've met Adrian, I've met, you know, Dave Kennedy. I meet all these people that come to our conference. And for a $50 a weekend conference and $35 for students, you can't beat it. You can't beat the kind of people you meet. And it's not you're seeing them from 1,000 feet across the room. You're sitting next to them having a slice of pizza. It's awesome. So you get to meet people and help a lot of people. Now, this is my favorite, is the CTF distractions. There's our bird. I don't know if he has a name, but oh, her name. Sorry, I can't tell.
Birds have feelings too.
So if you hear a bird, if a dog goes past, the bird will say, "Here, kitty, 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 kitty," and it'll do all kinds of crazy things. And if you're in a CTF, we like to distract the people. We made wrenches this year. So themes, of course, we use these foam wrenches as part of our theme to throw at people when they're doing the CTF. We've also, we have a guy named Stuart, which is a camera that we found an actual security flaw in one of our classes. So we brought him and hooked him up. And when you talk through him, through the app, you can actually make it do the little minions. People love that when you're doing a CTF. They are just so happy about that. And of course, we got people that'll go ahead and draw naked minions too. I don't know who was the artist there. Mike is the artist there on that. And we put him in front of the camera so people that got to hack the camera could see that. So, and one of the things is to try to enjoy your conference. Let your hair down, kind of like this, and enjoy. And
You seriously did that for one site?
no, I had to for him. So enjoy your current. Have fun. The picture here on your left is Adrian and Benny singing. What was it? Singing karaoke one night. That did happen. I should have done the video, but I didn't. I didn't put the video up. It's on YouTube. And then Benny playing the arcade. But we also have lockpick villages. We have hardware. SME comes in and does hardware hacking village, where we did FM radios. So our conference, we decided to make our conference not just for adults. We made it for kids. We made it for everybody pretty much. So people come in and bring their kids in. They can do the hardware hacking village. They can sit down and play video games. They're not going to sit through boring talks and go, oh, great, what's a TCP packet? Oh, okay, No, we have video games for the kids. Adrian teaches them lock picking, or somebody else does. We go ahead and they have a lot of fun because there's things that they can do that they never could try. We had a voting booth or a voting machine last year that we tore apart and tried to get some stuff out of.
So there's a lot of cool things that we get to do that like big conferences you see, but we have a little conference and we still get to have fun doing that. And also people that don't attend the conference, hotel workers come and go, hey, can I try that? We're like, sure, why not? You know, and let them come. So they spread the word because we're a small conference. They spread the word to other people so we can go on. And now I was weirdly dressed. I took my hair off too soon, like, you know, with this because our theme this year is going to be Wayne's World. So our CTFs also reflect this. We had one year we had we had 1980 movies. So some of our servers were Ghostbusters, Lethal Weapon. And you stop that when I'm talking there, buddy. Back up, Hack. I'll back up. So our CTFs have it this year. We're going to have a Wayne's World theme, but it's actually in dedication to a guy that was on our board, Wayne, and he passed away this year of throat cancer. So we're dedicating our next HackerCon coming up here in November to him and to his family. And so we're all going to be themed, okay, on Wayne's World. So thank you very much for listening to me babble.
I'll do this. Silly wizard. Okay, so the biggest thing is make sure that you sit down after it and go over what happened, what went right, what went wrong, especially what went wrong, and make sure that you give yourself some time to kind of decompress. So what we do is it's the weekend after Thanksgiving, so it's between the holidays. What we do is we take a couple of weeks off, and then we have a board meeting, and everybody starts talking about, hey, this worked. When I was talking to one of the attendees, they wanted to see this type of a talk. So then you can find out what you need to start working on for next year. It's what I was talking about earlier on how you have to adapt your target audience. You may find out that you've gotten way too technical on a particular subject, and people may not want to see that. So the evaluation is, and the aftermath is pretty crazy. We've had stuff in places that the hotel was like, how did that get there? And the biggest thing is make sure that you have everything written down and you can repeat it for next year if you decide to do it for next year. Sometimes after the evaluation, you may go, you know what? No way, I'm not going to do that again. Which I've had that. There was a point in time that, and I think everybody gets to that point, that we wanted to walk, a couple of us wanted to walk away from it and just not do it again, let someone else do it. But then you start talking to people in your target audience that were like, man, I learned this, or I didn't know that you could do that. And so then it gets you regenerated, whatever. Yeah. And I'm not the drinker is the funny part. So anyway, make sure that you, keep notes as things are going on. And that is it. So, do we have any questions? Do you have a question slide? No, we don't have a question. Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It's very hard. Even having the no name, or if you switch the name halfway through like we did, it's tough. Just keep pestering them. Find somebody that might be, like I have a buddy of mine that went to work for Red Hat, and he started a lug in the Charleston area. And he's like, hey, I want the 304 Geeks to help support it. He knew of the 304 Geeks, but he didn't know about HackerCon. I worked with this guy for 3 years, and I had HackerCon stuff in my cubicle and all that. But so I got with him, and he was the inside track to get Red Hat to sponsor for us. So they've sponsored the last couple of years, and it really does. They want to see that track record sometimes. So it's just be as persistent as you can. Yes.
is a security concern, but also it incentivizes sponsors to sponsor people as well. So it breaks down the risk.
Yeah, and that's something we've looked at and wrestled with before, because some sponsors do want that list. We tell people, like, look, you know, they may not have registered with a good email address, but we can't guarantee that. But they're pretty happy with it so far. So, you gonna say something, John? Yeah.
They were like, I don't want my personal information to go.
Well, and also for you're doing this one new, make sure that you have a background paper, because once we set the background paper up, that's when we started getting more people taking notice of us. You know, hey, here are the links to our previous videos off of Adrian's website. Here are here's how many people we've seen. Here's how we've been growing. Here's how we project to grow. Even if it's 1 or 2 conferences, they want to see that you're looking forward enough. And if you have that, they'll start talking to you a little bit better sometimes. We still have some that they just look at us and go, nope, not going to do it. It's Charleston, West Virginia. You wore it, man.
The one thing I'll add to that is our first conference was sponsored by Tenable. And, you know, we were able to leverage a personal connection to get that done. And so, you know, when you're starting out, don't be afraid to marry yourself to somebody, at least for in the short term, not for the long term. But, you know, HackerCon 1 was the Tenable conference, and they were big on the East Coast at that time. They were looking to expand. They were looking to push their stuff out. So, you know, find a hookup is the best. I mean, it's hard, you're right, but find somebody to hook up with and get a couple grand out of them, and then do whatever they want.
And also with that, make sure that when you start out and you start talking to these folks, try to have one voice, one person. Don't tick them off, because you will never see them again. And you can go back as many times as you want, and they won't talk to you, period. I mean, that's just the way it is. Now, we have seen that, and we have started getting some of those folks back, but one wrong move of, oh, you said that we were going to be in the program and we forgot them. So we did an immediate fix and you know, pasted it into all the programs so everybody had it. That wasn't good enough. So that's actually happened to us before. But those people have talked to me and want to sponsor again. So that's good, because people change sometimes.
The other thing to keep in mind with these companies is they all work on budget cycles, right? So if you're like our conference is in November, so we start hitting some of these guys pretty early in the year, because if they're on a calendar budget year, you know, they've got, you know, $10,000, $20,000 set aside for this kind of stuff in their budget. And if we waited till now to start looking for sponsors, we couldn't get anybody, because they were all like, oh, well, hit us up next year. We've already committed all our money. So you've kind of got to learn, and that's something just based on the people you talk to, you've got to learn, you know, what their budget cycles are, because some people are on a July budget cycle, some are on a January. So that's something else to kind of keep in mind. That's more the planning ahead, hitting them early part.
Also, to follow up on that, it's never too early to tell your next date. When we went with our new hotel, we decided that as soon as close to January 1st, we were going to give out the next year's date, because people start putting that in their calendar. And it's great if you can, in the closing ceremonies for one conference, you can say, oh, join us next year at the earlier the better. If you're not planning a year out, like right now, we're already planning for our 10th, which is next year. HackerCon 9 hasn't even happened yet, but we're already trying to decide what's the theme, what are we going to do? And that may not happen until January, February, but you need to start speaking to some of these people to get money now. And year and a half out is still, that's not too early. So,
Picking the date is a big deal. I mean, we wrestled with we moved our date once, a significant move, and it was just a month. It still is a very significant move. I mean, you've got to really look at the other conferences that are in your region, and you want to be on a weekend that they're not. And then you also want to look outside the InfoSec community at the things that are going around. We used to be on the middle weekend in October, and in West Virginia, that's a holiday called Bridge Day. If you've ever been to West Virginia, you know about the bridge, and if you've ever seen our quarter, you know about the bridge. And so that's a big deal in West Virginia, and it actually hurt us some locally to be on the same weekend as Bridge Day because people wanted to come down to go to that and not come to us. So we moved to the weekend after Thanksgiving, and it's been better since then.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we're lucky that when we went to this hotel, and we have this habit of every time that we go and put on a HackerCon somewhere, the dates mysteriously disappear the next year because they're full. And so we went to this hotel, and they were like, you know what? You can have any weekend from the middle of August to the middle of December. We don't do anything in the fall. And we're like, okay, great. Next year, I called her January 5th and said, okay, we want this weekend again. She's like, I'm glad you called because, man, we are booked solid. And that's why they give us a really good deal, because we're starting to bring in people for them, because they're going, well, you know, I heard about this tech conference here, and wow, that was a great space. And they're packed now. So that, and they give you a good deal if you know years out if you're going to be doing it at the same time. So, okay. So thank you for coming. And if you have any questions, we'll be out in the hall, or we're usually camped out by the CTF room too. So I think you can find us. You know what to look for. Thank you. Okay.